All right. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome everybody to our meeting, our LSAC meeting for July. We do have some changes in the upcoming one for September. We'll talk about that towards the end. But again, we appreciate everyone joining with us, either online and also Superintendent Mitchell and Commissioner Glass are with us today. And let's begin our meeting with, as we welcome Commissioner Glass to provide an update. LSAC meeting, Department of Education. Mr. Glass.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll keep my report to you brief. I know that we've got some several regulations to cover. One thing I'll update you on that was in the Monday message from this week is just a reminder of the letters training that's going on and the success that we've had in that. So last year we had 1,800 educators go through that training. We had in terms of the responses to that, 95% of them felt like it was new information. 95% of them felt like it was applicable and useful to the work that they were doing with students. So those are really good metrics. And we have over 2,000 educators taking part this year. So that's funded with our COVID relief dollars. We will be able to continue some parts of that going forward with some of the reading funds that the legislature has added and appropriated, which we're appreciative of. But I'd also encourage any districts to start thinking about how, if you wanted to use letters training or something similar in your own districts. The science of reading, I think it's clear now that the 5 research-based components of reading is the way to approach literacy. We have lots of evidence now showing that that's a superior method. So to the extent that districts can also implement that locally, I think that will be a great way to continue that effort. Shifting to some of the work that we've been doing here at the department, we were just talking earlier about how the summer vanishes with school districts, and that certainly has happened here at KDE too. We have some of the same challenges that districts have in staffing and getting ready for the new year, because we've got Kentucky School for the Deaf, Kentucky School for the Blind, and the ATCs also to staff. So we've been working all summer on fully staffing them, had success there. The only thing that's a challenge right now, we did have a principal turnover at the Kentucky School for the Deaf. Toya Roby retired. Of course, that's a big job to fill. So we ran a comprehensive search. We have identified a candidate. And we're working through a certification process with her, but we've put a KDE employee who's tremendous, Lynn Petrie, in an interim role there now, just as we resolve those certification issues and hope to have our new principal in place soon. One last thing I'll update you on, the Kentucky Board of Education is having its annual retreat meeting early next month on August 2nd and 3rd. That'll be at Dale Hollow Lake State Park. We will have a recording of the meeting available, but they have a packed 2-day agenda. Dr. Brewer has always put together a very busy agenda for the Board of Education, and that's no certainly true in this case as well. So we look forward to spending some time with the board, working through some of these regulations and some of the meat and potatoes work that they have to do, but also taking some time where they can look ahead and think strategically around their future direction, which is what retreats are for. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn things back to you unless there are questions, and we can move through your agenda.
Any questions from anyone online? If not, I'll make a quick comment about the letters training of the teachers that we've been part of. It's an intense training, and it's been very valuable to our teachers. Our chief academic officer has praised the training. I think this is a great investment of funds, and look forward to see the reward that our kids are going to get from it. And also, too, I'd like to take a moment. Dr. Brewer, we talked about Dr. Brewer putting together some agendas for us. She does a great job putting together things for us, too, with the help of others in the staff. So, Dr. Brewer, thank you for your efforts and keeping the chairs of different areas in line. We really appreciate that also, too. With that being said, we'll move on to our policies for review and action. And to begin with, we have 2 policies for our review and action. Up first, we welcome Dr. Beth Hargis from the Office of Career and Technical Education.
Hey.
Good morning.
Nice to be here, and thank you for your time. The Office of Career and Technical Education contracts with the Kentucky School Board Association to maintain the Kentucky Tech policies for our 50 state-operated area technology centers. And of course, they provide legislative related updates and suggestions, as do many of your districts as well, contract with them. We have 15 policies for consideration today, and I believe you've had the opportunity to review these. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have regarding these.
Any questions from anyone? Anyone online? Any questions? Well, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the proposed amendments to the Kentucky Tech policies and procedures?
Kirk Biggerstaff, I make the motion.
We have a motion by Superintendent Biggerstaff. Do we have a second?
Will Hodges, second.
Second by Superintendent Hodges. Do we have any discussion? If not, Dr. Brewer, please roll call vote.
Kirk Biggerstaff,
Kirk Biggerstaff, yes.
Mike Borchers,
Mike Borchers, yes.
Harry Burchett,
Harry Burchett, yes.
Tom Cochran,
He was having some computer problems. He had texted.
okay, Robbie Fletcher,
Yes.
Will Hodges,
Will Hodges, yes.
Sheila Mitchell,
Sheila Mitchell, yes.
and I think Russ is off as well. So Chair All.
Like Tom is back on if you
Oh,
will.
Tom is back on.
Mr. Cochran?
Superintendent Cochran, we just voted on approval of the Kentucky Tech policies. Would you like to cast a vote? He off
May
again?
still be, he's there. He may still be having some
Okay,
problems. Yeah.
all right. He
Okay.
can certainly vote later, but Chair, all members that are present have voted.
Thank you, Dr. Brewer. And thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Hodges. And also too, thank you for providing all those and well in advance, give us time to review those. We appreciate that so much. We have next Associate Commissioner Greta Hilton from the Office of Special Education and Early Learning will present proposed amendments to policies for the Kentucky School for the Blind and the Kentucky School for the Deaf.
We have a stand-in.
Yes.
Stand in today.
Melody Cooper, I'm the policy advisor in the Office of Special Education and Early Learning, excuse me. Glad to be here this morning. So just as Dr. Hargis said, the Office of Special Education and Early Learning also contracts with the KSBA for the annual updates to our policies for the Kentucky School for the Deaf and the Kentucky School for the Blind. And so we have submitted those. I believe you've got the grid where you can see all of the policies that were amended and added based on the legislative session and different legal decisions that took place throughout the year. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Again, those were provided in advance. Are there any questions from the group? If not, do I have a motion to approve the annual policy adoptions and amendments for the Kentucky School for the Blind and the Kentucky School for the Deaf?
Harry Burchett, Harrison County, I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Superintendent Burchett. Do I have a second?
Mike Borchers, Ludlow, second.
Thank you, Superintendent Borchers. Any discussion or any questions? If not, roll call vote, please, Dr. Brewer.
Kirk Biggerstaff,
Kirk Biggerstaff, yes.
Mike Borchers,
Mike Borchers, yes.
Harry Burchett,
Harry Burchett, yes.
Tom Cochran, Robbie Fletcher,
Robbie Fletcher, yes.
Will Hodges,
Will Hodges, yes.
Sheila Mitchell.
Sheila Mitchell, yes.
Okay, Chair, all members present have voted.
All right, thank you very much. And Ms. Cooper, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And now we have 4 regulations for review and action. Up first, we have 3 items from the Office of Finance and Operations.
Good morning. We have 3 regulations in front of the membership this morning from the Office of Finance and Operations. The first one is a new administrative regulation. This is 702 KAR 3:330 related to liability insurance. And this regulation is required pursuant to the passage of Senate Bill 3, which was passed in the 2023 session. This regulation, although currently school districts may provide liability insurance for their staff to cover potential liability related to actions within their scope and course of employment, this bill requires local school districts to obtain that general liability coverage for certified employees. So districts shall provide that coverage in an amount equal to the greater of $1 million, or if the Certified Educators Associations with the largest number of members in the Commonwealth has a greater coverage, then the district shall provide coverage equal to at least that amount. KDE is also required to provide excess liability for school district certified staff, and the coverage for that will also be the greater of 1 million, or at least the same provided by the Certified Educator Association's coverage. If that is greater, we provide that amount of coverage and an aggregate of $3 million. So what this regulation does is provide the process by which we will obtain information from the districts in order to be able to determine that that coverage is being met, and also to help us develop a solicitation, an RFP, so that we can obtain that excess liability coverage for the employees. KDE does not have to provide that coverage until July 1st of 2024. And for school districts in the fall, what we'll do as soon as school I say in the fall, which is just around the corner, but what we will do is we'll actually do a survey of districts so we can determine their current coverage, their current limits, and how many people they have covered. And then that will help us develop that RFP so that we can obtain that excess liability coverage for school districts. So we have we will operate under a survey for the fall, and then thereafter, the regulation actually has in the regulation that districts will provide that information to us on an annual basis so that we can keep up with that coverage being made. The regulation also will require school districts to notify us if their coverage lapses or if it gets canceled, and also to provide, once they get that alternative coverage in place, they'll also notify us of that. So really, this is the process by which we will be informed of the school districts having that coverage and will allow us to obtain that coverage on their behalf. I will share that as part of this bill, the bill was passed indicating it would have an appropriation on it, but there is no appropriation for this. So we will be advocating for that appropriation to pay that cost. We have included that, and it will be on the board for consideration as we go in front of the August board meeting at the Kentucky Board of Education for additional budget requests to take care of that funding. So I'm happy to answer any questions about liability insurance and excess liability insurance.
Okay, do we have any questions?
I have one question. Do we know what KEA's, I guess, coverage is right now?
We don't have that right now. We'll do that same survey at the same time that we're doing the school districts to make sure that we're getting responses on their current coverage.
Yeah, because I think it's the greater of the 1 million or the local teacher organization group, correct?
That's right.
Other questions?
Robin, what is the estimated cost for this liability insurance?
You know, that's a really good question. We put in our additional budget request a cost of $5 million, but really until we do the solicitation and see what the market is bearing, we really don't have an exact amount for that. But a really good question.
Can I do a follow-up?
Absolutely, please do.
So if districts currently cover that now, what would be the reason for them to continue if KDE is required to do it? Like, do you see districts dropping their coverage to let KDE pick this up?
The requirement for KDE is only for excess coverage. It's not for the general liability coverage. And
Okay.
so there really wouldn't be a reason if any districts have excess coverage for you to continue to do that.
Dr. Fletcher, I have a question.
Superintendent Burchett, go ahead, please.
So I went back. Which statute, Dr. Kenny, is this related back to? Is it the KRS 160.105?
Go to mine. Yes, 160.105.
I may have read that wrong, and I certainly would like to have time to have board counsel take a look at this, but if I read that right, KRS 160.105 requires districts to have $1 million liability insurance policy on their certified staff and not anything above that. So there is no mention in there of another entity or the largest bargaining group or anything like that. And so I'm just curious about that. Now, we actually have greater coverage than that here, but I wonder how many districts don't and what that impact would be on them.
So under 160.105, it does require that $1 million coverage, but with Senate Bill 3 that was just passed, that's the provision that talks to the greater of the coverage required under the Educator Association or 1 million. So this Senate Bill 3 is now putting in that new requirement. Then as far as excess liability, the bill actually created an educator's liability fund program, and that's where the excess liability has to be covered by KDE.
So the
So-
district doesn't have, that's not a requirement for the district, only for the department.
For excess coverage, it's only a requirement for the department.
Has the statute then not been updated to include the new language from Senate Bill 3?
It should be.
Because I just pulled the most recent one off the legislative homepage there. And I can't find anything in there that indicates a district is required anything above the 1 million.
You may need to look up 161.2.112.
Yeah. There is, if you look at 161, KRS 161.212, that is the educator's liability program statute. And that
Okay.
is the one that requires the comparison to the Educators Association. So it's both of those statutes together.
Okay, okay, so, but also on that particular statute, can you point the subsection where it says that the district shall provide excess of $1 million? Because the only thing I see on there is subsection 2 that says not later than July 21, 24, the department shall contract and provide that service. It doesn't reference that the district shall do that I can see. Now, I may be wrong.
Yeah, the district does not have to provide the excess liability at all.
So.
Only the department has to do that.
So, but doesn't this regulation read in a way that the district would have to meet the amount provided by the largest organization? Maybe do I need to restate that question? I don't know. It reads like the regulation is indicating that the district shall be responsible to meet the amount that is provided by the largest certified education association. Whereas the statutes don't actually, I can't find that statutes actually say that. And my concern, again, we provide greater coverage than $1 million, but my concern is that there may be districts out there that don't. And what is that fiscal impact on those districts that don't meet that? And as of today, we don't even know what that amount is. I'm assuming that's KEA, that the largest certified education association is providing.
Yeah, let us take a look at it. If we can stay here for the duration of LSAC, let us take a look at the provision that Superintendent Burgess has raised, and then we'll come back to you at the end of your meeting and see if we can straighten this out. Thank you very much for raising that.
Sure, I just want to make sure that
is the procedural move, so then you can come back to it later.
So in talking with Commissioner Glass, we're going to lay this on the table so we can come back to this towards the end of the meeting, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
The next regulation is KRS 702 KAR 3340. It relates to the approval of school district lease agreements above $100,000. KRS 65.9441B requires the Kentucky Board of Education to have a regulation regarding the approval of leases above $100,000. So this regulation, the proposed regulation, establishes that process, and working with our Office of Legal Services, they've come up with sort of a, well, I guess I should say first, I think that leases, when they were submitted to the department, depending on what type of lease they were, they could go to different places, and sometimes they would get bogged down. So the idea is to create a more streamlined, efficient process that works better for everybody, districts and for KDE. So the idea here is there's a form incorporated by reference, which is called the local board local board attorney certification form. So it's sort of like a checklist. So when you get a lease, the district looks at the lease and their attorney looks and says, does it have all these things or not have all these things in a lease that would make it legal? So it's envisioned that the local board attorney would sign off on this after reviewing the lease, would sign the form, submit, and then both the form and the lease are submitted to KDE. Then KDE's had 30 days to review it and approve or disapprove it. And then if we disapprove it, then it can be like appealed, really, or asked for re-review. So the whole idea is just to make it an easier, more streamlined process. And that's basically what our reg does. So.
Okay, do we have any questions?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. Having recently went through this process under the existing processes, it seems like this may help streamline that, and with that certification by local board council. And so I certainly appreciate your efforts to streamline that lease approval process.
Thank you, Superintendent Burchett. Any other comments or questions? All right, do I have a motion to approve 702 KAR 3340, approval of the school district lease agreements?
Mike Borchers, so moved.
Motion by Superintendent Borchers. Do we have a second?
Sheila Mitchell, second.
Superintendent Mitchell, second. Any further discussion? If not, Dr. Brewer, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Kirk Biggerstaff,
Kirk Biggerstaff, yes.
Mike Borchers,
Mike Borchers, yes.
Harry Burchett,
Harry Burchett, yes.
Tom Cochran.
Tom Cochran, yes.
Superintendent Cochran, would you like to cast a vote on the approval of the policy manuals from KSB and KSD and the ATCs as well?
Yes, though, yes on all of those.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Robbie
you.
Fletcher,
Robbie Fletcher, yes.
Will Hodges,
Will Hodges, yes.
Sheila Mitchell.
Sheila Mitchell, yes.
The chair, all members present have voted.
Okay, thank you so much. And then now we have an amendment on pupil attendance.
So this is an amendment to a current regulation, 702 KAR 7:125. And again, as Matt said in the last regulation, this is an attempt to kind of make things a little easier for school districts to expedite the process. This is to update the process for early entrance into the primary program by removing what we feel is kind of an unnecessary step of approval required at KDE. This amendment is really limited to changes to that process to enter kids that are under the age of 5 by August 1st into the first year, or under the age of 6 by August 1st of the second year of enrollment. Currently, a school district may enroll an underage student, and they go through a certain review process. They are looking at academic, social, and developmental progress of that student. But then the current regulation requires that to come to KDE for review and approval. So we don't see a lot of value added in that process for local school districts. So if you'll look at page 6 of the regulations, section 6.3C, we are removing that requirement of sending up to KDE for approval. Districts are still required to do all the things that they currently do in that review process, and they have your local board policy, and you have your 3-member committee that's looking at that student, and you're looking at multiple data sources in order to make that approval. But again, this is to remove that requirement that after that's done, it comes to KDE. That information of your review process should be retained in your district. And when KDE does their regular attendance audits, they will review at that time to just make sure that you follow the process appropriately. Additionally, the one other thing in this regulation, we've revised the home hospital form. Again, a form that districts are very familiar with and use. And really, the feedback that we got in looking at changing this is the boxes are really tiny. And so we reformatted it so that both our auditors that are going into districts as well as your staff have a little more room on that form to make it more legible. So that's all this regulation does, is trying to, again, provide that flexibility and autonomy back to the local school district.
Any questions or comments about the regulation? The proposed regulation? Or, I'm sorry, the proposed amendments? Actually, I'll make one comment. This just makes sense because, local districts are going to know those students much better, and it just makes sense for the KD to review that in the audit process. So thank you for that work on that also too. Any other comments or questions? Do I have a motion to approve proposed amendments to 702 KAR 7125 pupil attendance?
Will Hodges, I'll make that motion.
A motion by Superintendent Hodges. Do we have a second?
It's Tom Cochran. I'll second that.
We have a second by Superintendent Cochran. Any discussion? Not. Dr. Brewer?
Kirk Biggerstaff,
Kirk Biggerstaff, yes.
Mike Borchers,
Mike Borchers, yes.
Harry Burchett,
Harry Burchett, yes.
Tom Cochran,
Tom Cochran, yes.
Robbie Fletcher,
Robbie Fletcher, yes.
Will Hodges,
Will Hodges, yes.
Sheila Mitchell.
Sheila Mitchell, yes.
Chair, all members present have voted.
Thank you, Dr. Brewer. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we've tabled the one dealing with the first section, and we'll expect back a report towards the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Chair, I believe Superintendent Borchers has a question.
Superintendent Borchers?
Oh, it may have been a delayed hand. I apologize, Superintendent Borchers.
No, that's okay. That was earlier on, so.
Okay, sorry.
Caught me off guard there. I was in trouble.
No, we were calling you down, Mike. I apologize. Anyway, we do appreciate that, and we'll come back to the tabled item towards the end of the meeting. Also, we have Associate Commissioner David Couch and the team from the Office of Education Technology. Seems like Commissioner Couch is here alone for right now to talk to about Amendment 701 KR 5110, please.
Yes, this is something that we do around every 6 years. The law requires that a new master plan be at least every 5 years, but we do it every 6 years to line up with the bienniums. If you take a look at the regulation itself, basically the only change is changing it from 2018 to 2024 to 2024 to 2030. So that's the scratch out in line in the regulation that you have. This is the 6th version of our master plan, and I look at it like a good lesson plan. By the time you probably get to the 6th version, you should be pretty good. We felt our 5th one was pretty good, but we modernized this one and improved it in certain aspects that are in the plan itself, but we feel it's in a good place. The changes in it is reflect an updated budget because things have changed in the 6-year time frame. We have areas of emphasis, and when folks tend to do planning, they tend to only say what things they want to improve on, but I also think it's important to say what things are you doing well, you want to keep on doing well. And so in our areas of emphasis, we identify those areas we want to keep on doing well, and we also identify areas that we want to improve on or are brand new. For example, artificial intelligence is a brand new kind of area, so we've added that into it. Also, during the past 6 years, there's been a lot of research and studies are done. And so as the master plan has been in place, on our website. We've updated those. And so that's all those new studies and research is in the links that you see there. We also have updated the timeline. So during your time as leaders in districts and here in KD, hopefully you can see some yourself of our greatest hits album that we're proud of. But much like we're proud of, we're not totally ever satisfied. So we're always trying to do things to improve on what we're doing. And so that's where you see the areas of emphasis that we have in place. So that's the plan itself. You see a lot of information in there in the basic document, and we're just asking for the approval of it.
Any questions for Associate Commissioner Couch?
Again, Dr. Fletcher, not a question, but a comment.
Please.
Being some of you know this is near and dear to my heart. I've been a part of this for a long, long time, worked with Commissioner Couch since the early days. And I just want to commend him and his leadership team on their efforts in leading this for the state of Kentucky and setting the example for the nation. A lot of people don't know still to this day, but Kentucky leads the way in this area. And that's in large part to Commissioner Couch's leadership and his team. And we want to thank them for that service. So just excited about adopting I've been a part of all those master plans from the original building wirings back in the day when we were pulling cable through ceilings. So, but anyway, appreciate your service, Commissioner Couch.
Thank you, Superintendent Burchett. Appreciate it. And your support all the years in your technology roles and now in your superintendent role.
I'll make a comment also. If anyone that's maybe watching online or superintendent hasn't had the opportunity, the STLP conference is phenomenal. I've attended on 2 occasions, and it's going to be a part of my regular stop from this point on. But to see what our students are doing under the leadership of our local school districts, under the leadership of KDE, is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to see what we're going to do with AI as it moves forward,
That's
too.
right.
So again, thank you, Commissioner Couch, and it's good to have an Eastern Kentucky young man doing such good things for our school systems. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Superintendent Fletcher. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, sir. Any other comments?
With
Okay,
that,
do I have a motion? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, absolutely. Do I have a motion to approve proposed amendments to 701 KR 5110, the use of local monies to reduce unmet technology need?
I'd like to make the motion that we approve KR 5:110.
And I believe Superintendent Burchett is a former technology leader in your district. This is probably very near and dear to your heart, as you made a little comment of being a part of this work for a long time. So I know how much work and time that you've put into technology in your career and helping Johnson County and others. And now in your new district, actually been there for a few years now. So I know this is near and dear to your heart, and that means this motion means a lot more to you than what people may realize. So do we have a second?
I'll second.
I heard Superintendent Mitchell. So Superintendent Mitchell, thank you so much for that second. Any other discussion? Dr. Brewer, please.
Kirk Biggerstaff,
Kirk Biggerstaff, yes.
Mike Borchers,
Mike Borchers, yes.
Harry Burchett,
Harry Burchett, yes.
Tom Cochran,
Tom Cochran, yes.
Robbie Fletcher,
Robbie Fletcher, yes.
Will Hodges,
Will Hodges, yes.
Sheila Mitchell.
Sheila Mitchell, yes.
Okay, Chair, all members present have voted.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So Commissioner Couch. If everyone will take about a 5-minute recess and we'll check on our tabled item and we'll get back to you. So let's recess and resume at 10:10, please. 10:10. Okay. We'll resume our meeting. After talking with Dr. Kenny and Commissioner Glass, and also too the issues raised by Superintendent Burchett, there's a lot of merit to what Superintendent Burchett is asking. So this is not an urgent matter. So we're going to defer this We do feel like we could hurry through and do some strike throughs, but to be more thorough, we'd like to defer this to our next meeting. And then that way we can have a better discussion with seeing what the final product, more like what the final product will look like. So this issue will be deferred till the next meeting. So any comments about that? Also, Superintendent Burchett, thank you for raising that concern and giving us an opportunity to look more into that for the next meeting. Okay.
Sure. Thank you. Do we need a motion or anything like that to?
No,
table
sir.
it?
We're just going to defer, remove it from the agenda for today and have it on the next agenda. We don't have to have a motion or any of any sort.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Kenny.
Thank
In-
you, Dr. Burchett. Appreciate you catching that very much. And we'll come back before you in October.
Is there any other housekeeping as far as with that issue or any others?
Just the moving of the meeting date.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, this brings us to the final item. It's adjournment. And before we adjourn, I have an important announcement regarding our September meeting. Superintendent Mitchell and I are both part of the standard setting committee for the accountability. We've been in a meeting with 2 days already, which has been excellent. I think we had an excellent 2 days of getting out expectations and also educating everyone in the committee. Looking forward to the meetings in September. Also, too, I want to thank Dr. Brewer and also Associate Commissioner Sims. They've given us a little bit of a timeline of how we can get the information. We have about 2 weeks to review it, and then another 2 weeks before that would come out in the state reporting. So I think that month-long, 2 weeks, gives us some time to review, to think, gives us 2 weeks to look at whatever comes out of the accountability committee. Then LSAC can make the vote of what their recommendations at that point. So again, I'd like to thank everyone involved, especially the committee that's there working. A lot of great conversations going on, and I think Superintendent Mitchell absolutely would support that, and we thank everybody that's been a part of that. With that being said, that will cause us to postpone our next LSAC meeting to October 10th at 9:30 a.m. Okay. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
Kirk Biggerstaff, motion.
Motion by Mr. Superintendent Biggerstaff. Do I have a second? And second by Superintendent Mitchell. With that being said, we are adjourned. Thank you, folks.